The forest was silent except for the whisper of wind through tall silver trees. Captain Daniel moved carefully between the glowing roots, his boots sinking slightly into the soft ground. The crash of his small shuttle still echoed in his mind, flames and smoke rising behind him as he stumbled out. Now he was alone on this strange planet, his communicator broken, his blaster the only thing keeping him alive. The air felt heavy, filled with mist that glowed faint blue under the strange twin moons. Every step made him uneasy, as if eyes were watching from the shadows. Daniel's heart beat faster. He remembered stories told by other explorers, stories of alien worlds where death waited in forms beyond imagination. He forced himself to stay calm, but every sound in the distance made his hand tighten on the blaster. Then a rustle. He froze. Something moved among the trees, sliding smoothly, too quiet for any animal he knew. His breath caught as he raised the blaster, sweat dripping down his temple. From the fog, a shape appeared, tall, graceful, glowing faintly as if the light of the moons lived inside her skin. It was a woman, or something like a woman. Her body was slender, her face delicate and beautiful, with eyes brighter than any jewel Daniel had ever seen. But behind her moved long, living shapes, curling and swaying in the mist. Tentacles. They glowed faintly like liquid fire, wrapping around her shoulders and waist like a crown of danger. Daniel's chest tightened, fear clawing at him. He had heard of such beings, creatures who could crush a man's bones in seconds. His instincts screamed to fire, to run, to do anything but stay still. Yet something in her eyes held him frozen. They were not the eyes of a predator, not cold or empty, but filled with strange curiosity. Still, the tentacles swayed like serpents, and Daniel imagined them wrapping around his throat, ending him in silence. The woman stepped closer, her feet barely making a sound on the ground. Daniel's hand shook as he aimed the blaster at her chest. "Stop," he whispered, though he knew she could not understand. She tilted her head, studying him like one might study a wounded animal. The tentacles behind her moved slowly, not striking, only circling her body with graceful motion. Daniel's fear rose, his breath ragged. He imagined her pulling him apart, imagined his bones crushed and his lungs filled with alien air. Yet he could not move. There was something in her beauty that bound him to the ground, a strange mixture of fear and fascination. The closer she came, the more Daniel's mind screamed, "Monster," while his heart whispered, "Angel." The mist wrapped around them both, glowing softly in the moonlight. Her hair shimmered like threads of silver, her lips slightly parted as if she wanted to speak. Daniel swallowed hard, his finger tense on the trigger. But when she stopped only a few steps away, she did not attack. Instead, she raised one hand slowly, palm open, as if offering peace. The tentacles behind her stilled, swaying gently like seaweed in a calm ocean. Daniel blinked, confusion piercing through his fear. Why was she not attacking? Why was she looking at him with such calm? His weapon trembled in his hands, the weight suddenly too heavy. For the first time, he wondered if he was wrong, if this creature was not here to kill. Then one tentacle moved. It slid forward, slow, deliberate, reaching through the mist. Daniel's breath hitched, his muscles stiff, his heart hammering in his chest. He wanted to pull the trigger, to end the danger before it touched him. But something in her eyes stopped him. Those bright eyes, filled not with rage, but with a strange gentleness. The tentacle brushed his sleeve. Daniel flinched, expecting pain, expecting his arm to be ripped apart. Instead, he felt warmth. A pulse of heat flowed from the touch into his skin, spreading through his arm like fire that did not burn. His eyes widened in shock. This was no attack. This was different. The alien woman did not move closer. She only watched him, her hand still lifted in quiet peace. The tentacle lingered on his arm, soft as silk, glowing faintly in the dark. Daniel stood frozen, fear and wonder colliding inside him. The blaster's grip felt useless now, heavy and wrong. He lowered it slightly without meaning to, his eyes never leaving hers. In that moment, Daniel understood something he could not explain. This was not an enemy. This was not a monster. This was a meeting of two beings who feared each other, yet reached across that fear. The encounter that began with terror now carried the spark of something unknown, something he could not name. The forest held its breath, the mist glowing around them. Daniel's hand still trembled, but his heart began to calm. The alien beauty stood before him, her tentacles no longer a threat, but a mystery. For the first time, he wondered if this encounter was not the end of his story, but the beginning of something far greater. Daniel stood frozen in the glowing mist. His heart pounded so loudly that he thought the alien could hear it. Her tentacles still touched his arm, warm and soft, yet his mind screamed in terror. Every instinct told him to run, to escape before she revealed her true nature. He pulled back slightly, but the tentacle did not tighten. It released him gently, sliding away with the grace of a falling ribbon. For a moment he felt relief, then the fear returned even stronger. What if she was only playing with him? What if she wanted him to lower his guard before striking? Daniel stepped back, his blaster shaking in his hand. The alien beauty tilted her head, her glowing eyes filled with curiosity rather than anger. But the tentacles still moved behind her, swaying slowly, and in his imagination they became snakes ready to strike. He remembered stories of explorers who vanished without trace. What if this was the creature that had taken them? What if he was next? "Stay away," Daniel whispered, his voice trembling. The alien did not move, only watching him as if trying to understand. The silence between them grew heavy, pressing against his chest. Daniel's fear grew, feeding on his own thoughts. He imagined her wrapping those tentacles around his throat, crushing the air from his lungs. He imagined being dragged into the mist, never seen again. The forest around them seemed to darken, the glowing trees now like tall prison bars. Daniel's breathing grew harsh, his finger pressed harder against the blaster's trigger. One wrong move, and everything would end. Yet something inside him resisted pulling the trigger. The woman's calm expression did not fit the picture of a monster. Her beauty clashed with his terror, and that conflict tore at his mind. Suddenly another sound echoed in the distance. A low growl, deep and rumbling through the forest. Daniel spun toward the sound, his fear exploding. But the alien woman did not flinch. Her tentacles shifted, rising slightly, glowing brighter as if readying themselves. For the first time, Daniel realized maybe the danger was not her. Maybe something else was watching them. The growl came again, closer, vibrating in his bones. Daniel's fear twisted, unsure if he should point his weapon at the woman or at the shadows. The alien turned her glowing eyes toward the sound, her tentacles spreading protectively like shields. Daniel blinked in confusion. Why would she guard herself if she was the true threat? Unless she was not the predator here. Unless she was the hunted. His fears shifted, becoming complicated. He still feared her tentacles, the way they moved and glowed like living weapons. But now he also feared what else lived in this forest. What kind of beast made a sound so deep, so full of hunger? The mist thickened, swirling around them like smoke. Daniel's hands trembled, torn between two enemies, one beautiful, one unseen. The alien woman stepped closer, slowly, carefully. Daniel raised his blaster again, warning her with his eyes. But then she reached out with her hand, not the tentacle, her actual hand, her palm open, her gesture simple. It was not a move to harm him. It was a move to ask for something. Trust. Daniel's breath caught. He wanted to push her away, to escape this nightmare. But he also felt the forest closing in, the growl now echoing from multiple sides. Maybe he needed her. Maybe her tentacles, the very things he feared, were the only things that could save him. She spoke, her voice not with sound but inside his mind. Soft, melodic, echoing like water over stone. Fear blinds you, human, but fear can also guide. Trust me. Daniel staggered back, shocked that her words touched his thoughts. His fear reached its peak. This creature could enter his mind. She could break him from the inside. Yet at the same time, her voice carried no threat, only calm, only reassurance. The growl came again, closer now, followed by the sound of snapping branches. Something huge moved through the trees, unseen but undeniable. Daniel's blaster felt tiny in his hands. His fear no longer pointed at just her. It wrapped around everything in this cursed place. The alien woman's tentacles spread wider, glowing like shields of fire. Her eyes stayed locked on him, as if saying the choice was his, to stand with her or to stand alone. Daniel's chest rose and fell quickly, his fear choking him. He wanted to scream, to run, to vanish. But deep inside, a small voice whispered that maybe she was not his enemy. Maybe the true enemy was still hidden in the mist. The fear inside him was not only about her. It was about the unknown, and the unknown was far more dangerous than one alien beauty with glowing tentacles. As the forest shook with heavy steps, Daniel's blaster trembled in his grip. The alien's hand was still open, waiting. The tentacles behind her shifted like a living wall ready to defend. And Daniel, caught between terror and trust, realized his next choice would decide if he lived or died. The forest shook with another growl, deeper this time. Daniel's fear was like fire in his chest, burning and wild. The alien woman stood calm. Her glowing tentacles spread like a shield, her hand still open toward him. Daniel's instinct screamed to run, but another instinct, strange and unfamiliar, urged him to stay. He stared at her hand, trembling. Was this a trap, or was this a chance? If he took her hand, would she crush him, or would she protect him? The sound of snapping branches behind him forced the decision. He reached forward, slowly, carefully, and his skin touched hers. The moment their hands met, Daniel gasped. It was not cold or slimy as he expected. It was warm, soft, alive with a strange pulse that moved through him. It was like touching the surface of a calm lake and feeling waves ripple through his soul. His fear wavered, confusion taking its place. Then one of her tentacles moved again. He stiffened, trying to pull back, but she did not let him go. The tentacle slid across his wrist gently, not gripping, not forcing. It was like a feather brushing his skin, glowing faintly in the mist. Daniel's heart raced faster, every muscle tense. But no pain came. Instead, something else, something he never imagined. A pulse of energy rushed into him, warm and steady. It flowed from the tentacle into his body, moving through his arm, into his chest. For a moment he thought he was dying, his knees weak, his breath stolen. But then he realized it was not death, it was life. His wounds from the crash, small cuts and bruises tingled. When he looked, they were already closing. The tentacle was healing him. Daniel's mouth opened in shock. The alien beauty's eyes glowed brighter, as if pleased. Her voice touched his mind again, soft, gentle. You fear what can heal you. Human, you fight what can protect you. Daniel shook his head, unable to answer. He could not understand. How could something so terrifying feel so gentle? How could something he thought was a weapon be used to give comfort? The growl roared again, much closer, shaking the trees. Daniel turned, gripping his blaster with one hand, but his other hand remained in hers. For some reason, he could not let go. The alien stepped forward, still holding him, guiding him. Another tentacle touched his shoulder, wrapping lightly as if steadying him. Instead of fear, Daniel felt strength flow into him. The warmth spread deeper, steadying his breath, calming his panic. It was not just healing, it was sharing. She was giving him her energy, her calm, her courage. Daniel's mind reeled, his fears struggling to survive against the new flood of warmth. Was this manipulation? Was she controlling him? Or was she truly trying to help? The answer remained hidden, but the feeling was undeniable. He was stronger, The mist parted suddenly as a massive shadow moved between the trees. Two burning eyes glared through the fog, low and wide. The beast stepped forward, taller than any human, covered in dark scales. Its mouth opened, rows of teeth gleaming in the glow of the alien forest. Daniel felt his heart sink. This was the predator, the true danger. The sound that had haunted the mist now stood before him. The alien woman's tentacles snapped upward, glowing fiercely. Daniel raised his blaster, fear and determination clashing inside him. But before he could fire, another tentacle wrapped lightly around his wrist, lowering the weapon. He turned to her in shock. "What are you doing?" he whispered under his breath. Her eyes locked on his. Her voice filled his mind again. Together, not alone. Then she pressed her forehead against his for the briefest moment. A surge of vision struck him. He saw her world, vast oceans, shining skies, her people living in harmony with nature. He saw them use their tentacles not for war, but for healing, for unity, for pleasure in connection. He saw how outsiders had only feared them, never understood. When the vision ended, his body shook, his chest heavy with realization. The beast roared and charged, breaking the moment. Daniel aimed again, but this time his finger did not press the trigger out of fear. It pressed with calm, guided by the energy she gave him. The blaster fired, bright light cutting through the mist. At the same time, her tentacles lashed forward like glowing whips, striking the creature with precision. Together, their attack forced the beast back, howling in pain. The ground trembled under its retreating steps. Silence followed, thick and heavy. Daniel lowered his weapon, his chest rising and falling with deep breaths. The alien beauty released his wrist slowly, her tentacles retreating with grace. He looked at his healed arm, his steady hands, his racing heart. The fear was still there, but it was no longer in control. It was mixed now with wonder, confusion, and something he dared not name. She stepped closer once again, her glowing eyes soft. "You see now," her voice echoed inside his mind. "Fear is the beginning, not the end." Daniel swallowed hard, unable to reply. Her tentacle brushed his hand one last time, gentle, warm, reassuring. It was the touch that began not with fear, but with something else. Something unexpected. The beast's roar faded into the distance, swallowed by the mist. Daniel stood still, chest heaving, his blaster heavy in his grip. Beside him, the alien woman lowered her tentacles, their glow dimming slowly. The silence that followed was not empty. It was thick, charged, alive. Daniel turned to her, his eyes wide, still trying to understand what had just happened. She had saved him. Not once, but twice. Her touch had healed his wounds. Her tentacles had fought beside him. The very things he feared had become the reason he was still breathing. And yet, his heart still carried the shadow of doubt. Could he truly trust her, or was he falling into a deeper trap? The alien beauty stepped closer, her movements slow, graceful. Daniel stiffened, raising his blaster slightly. But she did not flinch. She only lifted her hand again, palm open. Her glowing eyes locked onto his, and her voice entered his mind once more. "No more fear. Human, you have seen my truth." Daniel shook his head, his voice trembling. "Truth or trick," he muttered. Her lips curved into something soft, not quite a smile, but close. The tentacles behind her swayed like calm waves, no threat in their movement. Daniel lowered his blaster. Not fully, but enough to show his hesitation. She stepped even closer. Then one tentacle reached out and brushed the ground between them. Glowing symbols formed in the mist, patterns Daniel could not understand. But when he looked at them, his mind filled with images, not visions of battle, visions of her people. He saw them gathering under the twin moons, their tentacles weaving together in unity. He saw them share thoughts, feelings, even memories through touch. A language beyond sound, a bond beyond words. Daniel staggered back, his eyes wide. He was seeing her life, her history, as if it was his own. When the images faded, he gasped for air, clutching his chest. You showed me, he whispered. The alien beauty nodded slowly, her voice gentle in his mind. My people connect through touch, not to harm, but to share. Daniel's thoughts spun. All his fear, all the horror he imagined, was crumbling. What if humanity had always been wrong about her kind? What if fear had blinded them to something far greater? But the fear inside him still whispered, still clawed at his mind. Trusting her meant risking everything. Yet without her, he would already be dead. The alien stepped closer until she was only inches away. Daniel felt the warmth radiating from her skin, from the faint glow of her body. One tentacle moved slowly, wrapping around his wrist, not tight, not controlling. Instead, it pulsed softly, like the steady beat of a heart. Daniel felt his own pulse match it, rhythm syncing with hers. It was not just touch anymore, it was connection. His fear shifted again, this time into something deeper, stranger. A feeling he could not describe. Her presence was overwhelming, beautiful, alien, and terrifying all at once. He could feel her emotions bleeding into him. Calmness, curiosity, even a fragile hope. In return, she felt his confusion, his fear, his struggle to trust. And yet, she did not push, she only waited. Daniel swallowed hard, his voice breaking. Why me? He asked softly. Her eyes glowed brighter. Her voice echoed gently. Because you did not shoot when you could have, because fear did not rule you fully. Her words struck him harder than any weapon. Was that the truth, or just what he wanted to believe? The mist around them shifted again, the forest alive with unseen movement. But this time Daniel did not look away from her. Her tentacle on his wrist tightened slightly, not in threat, but in reassurance. The warmth spread further, reaching deeper into his chest. And suddenly Daniel felt it. Not only her calm, but her loneliness. A vast, aching solitude, hidden beneath her beauty. She was alone, just as he was, stranded on this alien world. The realization cut through his fear. They were both survivors, both trapped, both searching for something. And in this strange forest, under the twin moons, they had found each other. Daniel lowered his blaster completely, letting it hang by his side. The alien beauty's eyes softened, her tentacles glowing faintly with relief. Her voice touched his mind once more. You begin to understand, human connection is stronger than fear. For the first time since the crash, Daniel felt the heavy weight of his terror lift. Not fully gone, but lighter, bearable. The touch that had once filled him with dread now filled him with something else. Not just safety, not just calm, but a strange spark he could not name. It was more than survival. It was the beginning of trust. The forest grew silent again, heavy with mist and mystery. Daniel stood close to the alien woman, his blaster lowered, his heartbeat steady but uncertain. Her tentacle still rested lightly against his wrist, pulsing with a rhythm that matched his own. He no longer pulled away. He let the warmth sink into him. And for the first time since their meeting, he realized he was not trembling. The alien beauty stepped closer, her glowing eyes fixed on him. She tilted her head as if studying him not as prey, but as something rare, something fragile. Daniel swallowed hard, still unsure of what to do. His mind whispered danger, yet his heart whispered something far stranger. He had never felt this before, not with a human, and certainly not with an alien. Her voice touched his mind again, calm and gentle. Fear is fading. Now comes something stronger. Daniel wanted to argue, but he could not, because it was true. What he felt now was not fear, not fully. It was a pull, a strange closeness that grew with every second of her touch. Another tentacle slid forward, brushing his other hand. Daniel flinched at first, but did not step back. The touch was soft, smoother than silk, glowing faintly as it curled gently around his palm. Warmth spread through his fingers, flowing up his arm like waves. He gasped quietly, not from pain, but from the shock of how it felt. It was gentle, soothing, strangely pleasant, like the comfort of fire in the cold, like water to a thirsty traveler. Daniel looked into her eyes, searching for deception, but what he found was only patience. She was not forcing, not demanding, she was offering. He realized she wanted him to accept, not because she needed power, but because she wanted him to trust. The tentacle around his palm tightened slightly. And then something new happened. Visions filled his mind, not of her world this time, but of himself. He saw his memories, the crash, the fear, his long, lonely missions. But they were different now. He felt her presence within them, comforting the loneliness, softening the pain. She was showing him his own life through her touch, but with warmth instead of despair. Daniel's breath caught, tears burning at the corners of his eyes. He tried to pull away, but her voice echoed in his thoughts. Do not hide, human. Let me see. Let me share. Her tentacles moved more softly now, one brushing his shoulder, another curling around his arm. Each touch was careful, gentle, filled with something he could only call tenderness. Daniel's fear melted into something he never expected, relief. He was no longer carrying the weight of his pain alone. The alien beauty's eyes softened, glowing brighter, as if she felt his acceptance. She leaned closer, her face near his, her voice flowing through his mind like a whisper of wind. Now you begin to feel the pleasure of trust. Daniel shivered, not from cold, but from the truth of her words. What he felt was not fear, not pain, not confusion. It was comfort, safety, and yes, even a strange kind of pleasure in the closeness. A connection so deep that words could never describe it. His blaster slipped from his hand, falling softly to the ground. He no longer cared, because at that moment, with her tentacles wrapped gently around him, he felt something stronger than any weapon could give him. He felt alive. The alien woman closed her eyes briefly, and Daniel felt her emotions through the connection. Loneliness, hope, desire for understanding, all wrapped together and reaching toward him. The tentacles pulsed again, not in threat, but in harmony. Daniel's body relaxed against the warmth. He thought of all the fear he carried when he first saw her. And now, standing so close, touched so gently, he realized how wrong that fear had been. She was not a monster. She was not a nightmare. She was a being who wanted to be known, to be felt, to be trusted. Daniel's lips parted as he whispered, almost without meaning to, I don't fear you anymore. Her eyes opened slowly, and for the first time, she smiled, soft, radiant, beautiful. Her voice filled his thoughts once more, carrying a tone that was almost tender. Then you are ready for more. The forest around them faded into silence. Daniel no longer noticed the glowing trees, the mist, or the shadows. All he felt was her touch. All he saw was her light. Fear had brought them together, but trust was binding them now. And in that trust was a pleasure far deeper than he ever imagined. The mist around them drifted slowly, glowing under the twin moons. Daniel stood close to the alien woman, his blaster forgotten on the ground. Her tentacles pulsed softly against his skin, not in control, but in rhythm with his own heartbeat. For the first time since his crash, he felt calm, felt whole. Yet deep inside, questions burned like hidden fire. Who was she really? Why had she chosen him? What truth lay behind those glowing eyes? He could no longer believe she was just a random creature of this world. Her touch, her voice, her visions, they carried meaning too deep for chance. The alien beauty seemed to sense his thoughts. She stepped back slightly, her tentacles curling close around her body. Her eyes glowed brighter, like molten silver. Then she raised both hands, pressing them against the misty air. Symbols formed again, glowing and shifting. But this time they were not only visions, they were messages. Daniel stared, his breath caught. The symbols spun into images inside his mind. He saw her world, once filled with harmony, her people strong and united. They used their tentacles not only for healing, but to share energy, to connect lives into one great harmony. Through their bonds, they felt no loneliness, no division. They lived as one heart, one soul, one people. But the visions darkened. Daniel saw fire, ships descending from the sky, human ships, explorers, soldiers driven by fear. They saw the tentacles as weapons, saw the glowing beauty as a threat. And so they attacked. Villages burned, her people scattered, many destroyed. The survivors fled into the forests, hiding from the ones who should have been allies. Daniel's chest tightened with shame. He saw through her memories how humans had judged too quickly. Fear had turned into war, and war had turned her people into ghosts in their own world. She was not only an alien woman with strange powers, she was one of the last of her kind. The vision ended, the mist settling once more. Daniel staggered, clutching his chest, his mind heavy with the weight of truth. He looked at her, his voice rough. "It was us," he whispered. "It was humans who did this to you." Her glowing eyes dimmed with sorrow, but her voice was steady in his thoughts. "Yes, but you are not all the same. Some still can see beyond fear." Daniel shook his head, guilt pressing on him like chains. He had come to explore, to find new life, yet his kind had already ruined it. And now here he stood, faced with one who should hate him, should destroy him. But instead she touched him, healed him, trusted him. Why? Her tentacle brushed his cheek gently, lifting his face to meet her eyes. Her voice whispered into his thoughts. "Because you hesitated, because you saw me, not the weapon, not the fear, but me." Daniel's throat tightened, emotions flooding him. He had been afraid of her tentacles, afraid of her power. But now he realized her people had always carried the answer. Connection stronger than fear, trust stronger than war. The forest rustled again, distant growls echoing in the mist. Danger was still near, but Daniel no longer trembled. He felt the truth deep in his bones. If humanity could learn to trust instead of fear, if they could touch as he touched her, then perhaps war could end. Perhaps something greater could rise from the ruins. The alien beauty leaned closer, her forehead touching his for the second time. This time the connection was stronger. He felt not only her memories, but her emotions. Her sorrow for her lost people, her hope for survival, her quiet desire for connection. And beneath it all, a spark, something fragile but powerful. She wanted more than survival. She wanted to be understood, to be trusted, to be accepted. Daniel's chest tightened as her emotions flowed into him, and he realized the revelation was not only about her kind. It was about himself. All his life he had carried fear, loneliness, a wall between him and others. And now, through her, he felt what it meant to be truly connected. For the first time, he was not alone, not in body, not in soul. He whispered softly, his voice shaking, "Then let me understand. Let me be the one who does not fear." Her eyes glowed brighter, and her tentacles wrapped gently around his shoulders. Not to restrain, but to embrace. Her voice filled his mind, calm and warm. "Then you are the beginning, human, the first to see us as we are." The mist swirled, glowing with faint light. Daniel closed his eyes, letting her warmth flow through him. The revelation was complete. The fear that once ruled him had given way to truth. And in that truth was the seed of something new. Not only survival, not only trust, but a bond that could change both their worlds forever. The night deepened, the twin moons climbing higher, their silver glow falling over the mist. Daniel stood with the alien beauty, his heart steady in a way he had never known before. Her tentacles wrapped lightly around him, no longer strange or terrifying, but a comfort. The revelation of her past still echoed inside him, filling him with guilt and determination. He could not change what humans had done, but he could change what he would do. The forest rustled again, but this time Daniel did not flinch. He no longer feared the shadows, for he knew he was not alone. The alien woman watched him carefully, her glowing eyes softer now. There was no need for words between them. Their connection spoke louder than sound. She could feel his resolve, and he could feel her hope. Then the ground shook. From the mist emerged the beast again. Its scales cracked, but its hunger undimmed. Its roar shook the trees, louder than before. Daniel gripped his blaster, but something inside him shifted. He realized that survival was no longer just about fighting. It was about trust, about unity. He looked at her, and she nodded once. Her tentacles spread wide, glowing like fire. Daniel raised his blaster, his hands steady. Together they stood side by side, facing the monster. But this time, Daniel felt no fear, only strength, because now he knew he was not fighting alone. The beast charged, its massive body crushing trees in its path. Daniel fired, light cutting through the mist. At the same moment, her tentacles lashed forward, wrapping around the beast's limbs. Her glow spread through its body, forcing it to stumble. Daniel took the chance, his blaster striking true. The monster collapsed with a final roar, crashing into the earth, shaking the forest. Silence returned once more. Daniel lowered his weapon, panting, sweat dripping down his face. The alien woman withdrew her tentacles, their glow fading softly. She looked at him, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she stepped closer and placed her hand on his chest. Warmth spread through him again, steady and calm. Her voice whispered in his mind, "You have chosen trust over fear, and in doing so, you have saved us both." Daniel stared at her, his voice breaking. "I was wrong about you, about everything." Her lips curved into a soft smile, her glowing eyes reflecting the twin moons. "You were afraid, but fear is the beginning, not the end." For a long moment, they stood in silence. The mist swirled gently around them, carrying the echoes of their battle. Daniel realized that this encounter had changed him forever. He had come here as an explorer, a soldier, a man carrying fear. Now he stood as something else, a bridge between two worlds. The alien beauty leaned closer, her forehead touching his once again. But this time, the vision was not sorrow, not loneliness. It was light, hope, the image of a future where human and alien walked side by side. Not divided by fear, but united by trust. Daniel's chest swelled with emotion. He knew then that his mission was no longer about survival or discovery. It was about connection. When the vision faded, she stepped back, her tentacles retreating gracefully. Her eyes held his for a long time. Then she whispered into his mind, "You must return to your people. Tell them what you have seen. Show them the truth." Daniel felt his heart sink. He did not want to leave, not now, not after everything. But he knew she was right. Her kind could not remain hidden forever, and humanity could not remain blind. He picked up his blaster, but it no longer felt like a weapon. It felt like a relic of fear. He carried it anyway, not for war, but as a reminder. He looked back at her one last time. The mist wrapped around her glowing form, her tentacles moving like gentle waves. Beautiful, strange, unforgettable. "Will I see you again?" he asked softly. Her voice reached him, calm and sure. "If you return without fear, yes." Daniel's chest tightened, but he nodded. He turned, walking into the mist, each step heavy with the weight of what had passed. Behind him, the alien beauty watched, her glowing eyes filled with something he could not name: sorrow, hope, and perhaps even longing. As the forest swallowed her figure, Daniel knew one truth. The human who once feared her tentacles now carried them in his heart. Not as monsters, not as nightmares, but as symbols of trust. And in that trust lay an unexpected pleasure. The pleasure of connection that could change not just him, but all of humanity.